Hello, this is Andreas Exahes, and I'm here at the BWCA Conference and Trade Show in Nottingham with Alastair Campbell. Alastair, your book is about winners, and the main theme of this event was winners.
Yes.
Could you give the members of the BWCA some tips on how to be winners?
Well, if I were to sort of go through all the people that I talked to for the book and pick out things that I think can apply to anybody, some of them are blindingly obvious. I think they work really hard. I think they have a really clear sense of what they're trying to achieve, but most importantly they know the steps they have to take to work towards that objective. I think too often people confuse wanting to win and will to win. Everybody wants to win, but will to win is, do you have the ability to take the steps necessary to give yourself the best chance of winning? I think the other thing to say is it's important to define what you mean by winning. I mean, not everybody can be the Olympic gold medalist at 100 metres. Only one person can every 4 years. So very, very small numbers of people can think about reaching those kind of ultimate sporting or political or business objectives. But along the way, there's all sorts of things that you can set yourself objectives that for you become a win. So for a company, somebody who starts a company, a win becomes getting to the end of the first year in good shape. They then might set themselves bigger and bolder objectives in the next 3 years, the next 5 years. So I think having that sense of objective, and then the hard bit is working on the strategy to get there.
So I guess, as you pointed out in your speech earlier, resilience is a key trait.
I think that the only person in the book who says he never thinks about losing is Floyd Mayweather as a boxer. Now, I don't know if that's true or not. I can't believe he doesn't have the odd moment lying awake thinking, I'm not in shape, or this is going to go wrong. But he says he doesn't. So I think that most of these people have had real setbacks in their lives. It's funny, you're sitting there and behind is a picture of Winston Churchill. Now, there's somebody who had all sorts of setbacks in his life, and yet is utterly defined in history by his greatest achievement. To be the person that he became in the Second World War, when he was leading Britain in the war against the Nazis, part of him was the story of setback in his life before that.
And we have the elections coming up quite soon. Can I ask you, who do you think is going to win, and how will that affect the water cooler business?
Well, I'm very biased, okay?
Yeah.
So you're not going to get me giving a fair an assessment. I want Labour to win, and I think Labour can win. If you look at the numbers, they're all pointing to another coalition, because nobody's pulling away, and the smaller parties who tend to fade away when you get to a general election campaign appear to be kind of hanging in there a bit. So I think it's very hard to see where the Tories get a majority from. Not least because the Liberals stopped them doing the boundary commission. I think Labour can get a majority, but it's clearly going to be very, very tough. And so I think for your industry, ultimately, what's clear to me, just having spent a little time that I have with people, is that it's a pretty buzzy group of people. And I think, in a sense, you clearly who your government is of fundamental importance to a business. I do think that one of the issues that is not getting nearly enough play for me is the whole issue of Britain's relations with the European Union and the importance of Britain staying in Europe. I think that's of fundamental importance to business. I do think that for all that George Osborne was sort of trying to portray some kind of economic miracle yesterday, this recovery is not happening for a lot of people. So that's a biased way of saying I hope we get a Labour government, but ultimately British people will decide.
So in what way is it vital that kind of we touch upon Europe here with the water cooler industry? I guess we have a lot of members from all around the world. So I think even having an argument about leaving Europe, I think is damaging to Britain. Yeah.
I think that there are politicians and businesses in France and Germany and Spain and Italy. Yes, these are countries that are going through their own difficulties, but the idea that Britain would cut itself off from what is a place where we're doing most of our trade, where so many jobs depend upon it, I think is just absolutely crazy. And the fact is that I talked a lot about strategy and tactics. It's what happens when you have David Cameron as Prime Minister, who is so tactical. He doesn't want to be in a position of having a referendum on the European Union. He's done that as a tactical response to the rise of UKIP, when actually I think he should have stood up to UKIP by saying, in part by saying, I'm sorry, on these big policy questions, you're wrong, and we'll have the argument. Instead of which he said, let's have a referendum, that'll deal with UKIP. Well, it hasn't really worked, has it?
And finally, how has the water cooler industry come across you today? What do you think about the sector?
I've enjoyed it. I've enjoyed the buzz. I've loved the fact, I didn't even know they were doing this, I've loved the fact that they've sort of embedded my book into all of the kind of publicity materials and the backdrop and the water bottles. That says to me it's quite a kind of, dynamic, fun sort of place. And also when you go through there to where all the exhibitors are, I mean, it's got a bit of a buzz about it.
Yeah.
So that says to me it's in pretty good shape. And I know you've had the news that you're growing by 8% after a few years in relative doldrums, so that's got to be good news too.
Brilliant. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.